agendas. I misclicked on it, so I gotta make sure I get it back right. There it is. Okay. So with that being said, the first thing on our agenda for today is approval. Actually, let's see here. No, I can't. Man, I'm having a bad start to my last meeting that I'm running here. My apologies. All right, let's get this back up here. So we need to approve the minutes, I believe, from a meeting, but I can't seem to find my attachment. Let's see here. Golly, this is just not a good start. There I am. All right. We have an introduction of our new member, Mr. Wales. Is he with us at this? There's Mr. Wales. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I will give you the floor to provide a proper introduction of yourself to the members of CTAG as well as our partners within CATS. So go right ahead, sir.
Okay, gee, I didn't know I was going to have to script this. All right, so from the hip here. My name is Jonathan Wells, and I have been a resident of Charlotte for about the last 30 years. I am representing and was appointed by the Board of Education. I happen to have worked with CMS back in the 90s as their director of planning. I then spent about 18 years working with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Department. For the last 7 years, I've been doing a bit of planning consulting in various jurisdictions throughout the Charlotte metro area. So good to be here.
Well, excellent. We're glad to have you. We always enjoy having a full group on our CTAG group here, and really need the participation and look forward to you providing a lot of great insight and engagement. Any questions or comments for Mr. Wells from anyone? All right. None being heard, we'll move on to our next item, which is approval of the May 16th, 2023 meeting summary. And as I recall, that is when we did our approval of the budget that then went to the MTC board. Do I have anyone who would like to move forward with approval of those minutes as far as nominating to move forward with that?
This is Kevin Walsh. I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Thank you, Kevin, for that motion. Do we have a second?
Donald Rhodes, second.
Thank you. I see a thumbs up from Todd as well. Thank you, Donald. So all those in favor of approving the minutes from the 2023 May meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any in opposition? All right. Hearing none, we will approve those minutes at this time, and we can move forward with our next agenda item, which is the restatement of the CTAG responsibilities, which is one of the next three items that Mr. Howell will be leading us through. So, Chad, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Chairperson Tillman and CTAG members. How are you today? Can everyone hear me okay? It's been a minute since we've done a WebEx.
Sound a little far away.
A little far away. Okay. Apologies for that. Now? Okay, all right.
Outstanding.
Sometimes, use technology, there's too much of it, but we got that to work. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Apologies for not being a little clearer a second or two ago. As you probably noticed when you approved the minutes, it has been a couple of months since this group met last. And so I hope everyone had a great and productive summer, but I also thought it would be a good idea for us just to revisit, particularly as we head into not only CTAG, but MTC and TSAC's busy season with the budget. We've got a lot going on in the coming months, so I thought it would be good just to have a restatement of this subcommittee's responsibilities. And so we sent out the rules of order for basically, it's not just this group, it's the rules of order for the MTC. We sent that out with everyone. And on page 7, specifically, it gets into the responsibilities of CTAG and some other areas after that. I've put together a very brief PowerPoint. As I organized my notes, I felt it might be just as good to do that. So let me just share that with everyone real quick, and we'll walk through this and the other items as Mr. Tillman directs. Okay, can everyone see the full screen? Okay, technology's working for me today, great. Okay, as we talked about on page 7 of the rules of procedure, and I won't read all of these, they're there for you to see, but basically what it sums up to is really anything dealing with the budget, anything that deals with proposed transit policies that will be presented to the MTC, corridor work, and a number of other items. There's about 8 of them here, I think, 7 different items that are the responsibilities or that this subcommittee of the MTC is tasked with. And again, just thought it would be good to put them up here. Again, thanks to Paulus and Emily for sending out the complete MTC document there for everyone to look at. A couple of other items that are on the following page that I thought would be good just to point out here. This section also talks about the subcommittee's membership, attendance, the terms, officers, and meetings, and all of that are on the following pages 7 to 8, and then it transitions into TSAC, which has similar things for each for it. And again, a copy of this was sent out with the MTC rules of procedure as part of your agenda packets, or I believe it would also be on the website. When I logged on, I know some folks were talking about where it might be posted. Does Mr. Tillman or does anyone have any questions about this item?
Don't necessarily have any questions regarding this item. I'm comfortable with what you've shared at this point.
Okay, I'll go ahead and jump to the next. If you're okay, Mr. Tillman, what I'll do, Chairman Tillman, I'll just keep rolling through, and I'll give at the end of each one, I'll give everyone a chance to ask questions, and then of course we'll have questions, comments at the end.
That'll be sufficient.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next item is budget calendar and process. I know, again, we're getting into our busy season. This is still very much a draft product, but here it is. I'll kind of go through a few of the dates here just briefly. I know this is a lot on the screen. It will not be the last time everyone sees this. Internally, where we are, our budget team, led by Ms. Phyllis Heath, has already had our kickoff. And as of a few days ago, we've already started receiving the requests in from the divisions. This is both for the FY25 operating and for the FY25 through 29 capital improvements program. And so again, these will be just call it the raw data requests that are coming in. At this point, they have not been vetted. They have not been aligned to any strategic priorities that either the department, the MTC, or the city may have. These are just simply the requests that are coming in. And throughout the next few months, then we will be working with the MTC, with CTAG and TSAC, and many city departments, other stakeholders to align any budgets that we receive, both operating and capital, with all those stakeholders and policy boards inputs. And so this is just the beginning of the process. What I have laid out here, and I'll send this presentation over to Mr. Ford, and he can post it. I see a couple things I want to clean up before I do that. But then again, this is just a preliminary calendar, could change. In blue, kind of the lighter blue, you'll see the different points where we're talking about placing it in front of either the MTC, CTAG, or TSAC. Did I see that there was a question, I believe?
That was regarding the
It's hard for me
attendance.
to tell with the full screen, so if we can't, Paulus, if you could, if someone has a question, you could just please call, as long as when I'm in presentation, if you could just please call my attention to it, so I'll make sure I address it as quickly as I can. But again, that's kind of where we are, so it's very preliminary stages. We are starting to pull things together. We've already started some high-level discussions with the city as far as some of our needs and some of the things that we see. But again, those are very preliminary at this point, and really are looking at kind of the bottom line level as we see them. The next agenda item. Any questions or comments just quickly on our budget, on our calendar?
You know, the one thing I will say, Chad, is that I'm happy that we've been having conversations, and this is for the benefit of the entire CTAG group, so that we, as our organization, can see and have more time to review the budget items before we're having to give our stamp of approval. And that's something Chad and his team have been coordinated with myself as well as Jeffrey about, and making sure that there's at least a 30-day window, or in best case scenario, for us to be able to look at it and bring questions back to the CAT, so that we can truly be prepared and knowledgeable and ask good questions to affect change if necessary. So appreciate the work you guys are doing on that.
Yes, sir. And again, to that point, this is very much a living calendar, a living document. And so if we need to make adjustments along the way, we certainly can do that. The other thing we wanted to kind of brief everyone on, especially since we hadn't met since May, was the current review that we're undergoing from the FTA. And that is our FMO, FSSR, is what they call it. It's a financial management oversight, full scope system review. Full scope system review, FMO is a broad category of things. The full scope system review is specifically what we're undergoing within that. And we'll see that later on in the coming slides. So actually, here's what the FSSR is. We have the FTA brings in outside contractors, and what they're really doing is checking how CATS performs in relation to 2 CFR Part 200. That is the overarching document that we have to link back to, whether it's from financial reporting, our accounting operations, budgeting, the way we manage grants, the documentation that we maintain, the city's actual financial system, Tyler Munis, which again is being a department of the city. CATS is integrated with that, the city's system, but it still has to meet the standards and be able to produce and protect and show information in a way that is consistent with 2 CFR Part 200. And so this is the process. This is what we are currently going through now. I'll touch on where we are in a couple of slides. Just to recap, in March of 23, the city manager informed City Council, the MTC, and CAT staff that Mr. Cagle would request that FTA conduct an off-cycle review. Off-cycle being typically, what that means here is that the The FTA typically does have a cycle for these. The triennial review is another one, is done every 3 years. The FMO, there is a cycle. The different types of FMOs, again, there's 3 or 4 different types of sub categories under the financial management overview. And so each of those has their own schedule. So this one is off schedule for CATS, but we are going through it now. And then in June, FT announced it had selected the contractor for the FMO, which was Sager and Rosenberg Partners, and they are currently going through that with us. Where we are right now is in July and August of 23. We held an entrance conference between CATS staff, City of Charlotte Finance Department was involved, the contractor and FTA, and actually NCDOT as well. And we had an entrance conference where they laid out the schedule that they had at the time, and we have now gone through the assessment phase with them. They have not provided any feedback to myself or any CAT staff. They've simply acknowledged when you have given them the documentation that they requested, or when they have had an interview and they which have been virtual, and they ask a number of questions and they acknowledge that that you've answered all of their questions, or they come back and will ask follow-ups. They keep a pretty good poker face. This firm does a number of these, and so they have not shared with us, any feedback yet. But they've also not asked a lot of pointed follow-ups, so I'm not sure how to interpret that. But I think maybe that's a good sign. But again, this is the first phase. The second phase, which will happen this fall, we've not actually don't have the actual time for it yet. That's what they call the testing phase. That they will come on site at that point. There is an additional document review. They will sit with a number of staff, watch us perform certain functions. This is also where they were actually asked for. In fact, they've submitted it to us already, and we're pulling that together. Well, they'll say, for example, I won't get too much in the weeds, but we picked a project, we picked an invoice from that project. Show us everything associated with that invoice, right? So what's your process all the way through until you actually took that invoice and applied it to a request for a grant reimbursement, right? And so we'll be asked to show that. They ask to see certain of our fixed assets. They'll want to see processes and procedures. So we're waiting now to hear back from them to schedule that specific phase. Once that is done, then now we enter into we're finalizing it. It will be the reporting phase. They'll come back and they'll issue a preliminary report of any findings that they have with CATS. Their take on what those findings mean. We'll have a chance to respond to those findings and talk about, by responding, I mean, talk about maybe if they missed something, we'll work with them on that. We feel they missed something, or thank you, and this is what we'll do going forward. They'll draft a report, and then we'll issue a final report that will come. They'll issue that with a memo saying that everything is closed out. What I'll try to point out to everyone when we review this is going back to, we talked about compliance with 2 CFR Part 200. That their job is really not to necessarily come in and find fault. Their job is to come in and say, this is the standard, and you're, 1% meeting it, 99% meeting it, 10% meeting it, something like, along those lines. And here are some things you can do to go from 95 to 100% meeting the standard. I welcome their feedback. The team here welcomes their feedback because they're going to work to bring us in, call it closer compliance, if we're not already there on some part of 2 CFR 200. Mr. Tillman, Chairman Tillman, Co-Chair Tillman, that's those three parts. I do have a couple of items to talk about with other business, but I want to I'll offer y'all an opportunity to respond to any of those, or if there's any other business that y'all would like to discuss before we move on, then it's time for you to do that, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Chad. Are there any questions or comments regarding any of the items that Mr. Howell has provided from the CTAG group?
I think Mr. Cagle has his hand up.
Yeah, yeah. If all right, I just want to also add, I think for members of the CTAG, please also note that the FTA, there are 2 reviews being done. They are separate reviews, but they are both off cycle. The FMO, as Mr. Howell just discussed, is one of the reviews. There is also an operations and maintenance review that they're not one review, but they're being done together by the FTA. But they are separate because they're separate contractors who are doing those reviews. So the FTA hired the firm to do the FMO. They got started. They have now just recently, over the last probably 3 weeks, notified us that they have hired a firm to do the O&M review. That firm is in process of scheduling the opening meeting or opening conference, and it will go through the exact same process steps as the FMO. One thing we think that the FTA intends to do, we think this because they've alluded to it, they've sort of said it, is at some point trying to align these 2 reviews from a timing schedule standpoint so that the draft reports come out together rather than FMO and then O&M. They're trying to align those 2 schedules so that those reports come together. But both of those efforts are underway. The FMO started, has already begun, and O&M is starting. Well, it's starting in all earnest with that opening conference. Chad, do you know when the opening conference is?
I believe yes, sir. I believe we're working toward trying to schedule it for the 26th after we get a couple other things out of the way. I'm coordinating with Mr. Powell with the FTA on that now.
Yeah, so soon, and I just wanted to remind everyone of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Very much appreciated. All right, any other questions or hands raised from anyone from staff or the CTAG group, as I will go back to my grids? All right, seeing no questions, we are now going to move to the next agenda item, which is other business. Mr. Howell, you mentioned you had something and I had something. I'll finish up after you and anyone else that we may have that has other business. So Mr. Howell, the floor is yours once again.
Thank you, Chairman Tillman. A couple of things that just for future agenda items that we'll be bringing forward as staff for discussion. We've got a couple policy revisions. The last time we looked at the overarching financial policy for CATS, which is ultimately adopted by the MTC, I believe was 2016. So we feel like we need to come back and refresh that. Just everywhere from some grammatical changes all the way through to I see Mr. Thomas is on. The legal folks are looking to make sure references within the document are still accurate to different state statutes and procedures and policies. So we feel like it's time to bring that back to through this group and then ultimately to the MTC as well, the MTC, and then back through this group to review and adopt that. They call it MTC 01 is what that's called. You may hear it referred to that way. The procurement policy, which is actually pretty short, it's only a few pages. We also feel like it's time to bring that back in front of this group and the MTC and refresh it. It's been a while since it's been updated. And so that's something we're working on. We will try to bring those two through together in the coming months. We're working to find a time where once we kind of start that process, we want to walk it through both groups accordingly, give everyone plenty of time, as Mr. Tillman alluded to review it. And so we're also trying to balance that around a budget process that we've got going on as far as timing goes, other items that we know are coming before the MTC, and our holiday schedule coming up in the next few months. And so, but we do see that we will be bringing those policies back in front of this group for review. We talked about the budget. Obviously, we'll probably keep that as a standing item for the next few meetings. And then we'll just, at a minimum, can give an update where we are on that, even if we're on hold or status quo kind of thing. The other thing that we'll need to, I think, discuss next month is our holiday meeting schedule, whether or not CTAG will hold a meeting in December, and or when would the next meeting be, but we can bring that back up in November. Mr. Chairman, those are the three items that staff has for future agenda at this time.
All right. Thank you very much, Chad. Really appreciate that. Some really important items that do have some pretty big ramifications going forward. So need to keep those near top of mind. A couple other things I wanted to share regarding other business. If you did not read any minutes from it or attend the last MTC meeting, Chrissy Echelon of the TSAC group spoke, and I also seconded her comments with a request to have consideration for CTAG and TSAC to be merged into one organization that will support the MTC, and also to request to have voting rights on the MTC board as well. Now, at this point, there's nothing specifically imminent, but things are being looked at with the documentation and how everything is organized. But based upon the dueling activities and responsibilities of CTAG and TSAC, we both felt that it would be more beneficial if we were all together discussing many of the same issues instead of having one group solely focused on the budget and the other focused much more on the service and needs of the public. So that is something that is being looked at, and hopefully that will come to fruition here in the coming months, if not next budget cycle for us. Additionally, this will be my last meeting as chair. My time as the CTAG co-chair and as a member ends as of the 1st of November. So thank you so much for having me and allowing me to stumble sometimes through some of our activities, and really enjoy the time here. And I'll be turning it over to Mr. Parker to lead the group going forward. And he is extremely prepared and excited to move forward, whether he believes that or not. That is absolutely the case. And lastly, just want to make sure for attendance purposes, for those who are on the phone, is Michael Cataldo on the phone, or Anna Davis, or Justin Music? Either the three of you on the phone? Please speak up so that we can make sure we have correct attendance for everyone. All right. Hearing none. So is there any other business that Mr. Rhodes? Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for the time here. Just really quickly, thanks, Chad, for your updates. And I just wanted to speak to or ask a question in reference to the MTC's rules and CTAG's responsibilities. So, I see that one of our responsibilities as members of CTAG is to engage within the community, key stakeholders on total value of investing in transit, and then provide insights on community attitudes toward the transit plans and system performance. So I just wanted to take a moment, if I could. I think it's probably more the responsibility of TSAC to kind of provide that feedback. But I was appointed by the town of Matthews because to CTAG because I'm a frequent rider of the CATS bus system, at least 3 times a week. I try, but as best I can, I try to be a goodwill ambassador on behalf of CATS. But I'm hearing more and more, and from my own personal experience, I can tell you that riders are just becoming more and more dissatisfied with the service, the consistency of the service. And I know we've heard for the last since COVID times and after that it's a real struggle with staffing, and I totally get that. It may just be that I'm seeing it on my routes. I ride 64 to and from Matthews, 64X, occasionally 62. But when one bus in particular doesn't show up, let's say it's 25% of the time doesn't show up, or returning home, the one I typically ride is consistently 20 to 30 minutes late. I'm finding myself driving more and more, or even Ubering from uptown. So I'm spending $35 one way just to get home. I also, and I hear grumblings from so many other riders saying they're just about to abandon the bus and start driving for this reason. So I wanted to know what's being done to improve the consistency. And again, maybe it's just 64X. I don't know. What is the staffing situation? What's being done for driver, operator, and passenger safety? I haven't heard anything about that recently. I can tell you a couple months ago, I was riding 64X home, and I see this a lot with new operators. They're navigating with paper navigation. There's no GPS. They've got sheets of paper, and they're asking the passengers often where to make the turns. I had one driver tell me, I asked him about a particular stop. He said, and he gave me some information. He said, well, that's okay. He said, this is my last day I'm driving. I said, why? He said, I'm quitting because I don't want to get shot. And he held up this stack of papers. And he said, these are the directions I'm given to navigate by. I'm not familiar with this route. I don't want to make a wrong turn and end up in the wrong place. And I've seen this before. So I just wondered, again, is there any improvement on the horizon there for both operator and passenger safety and system consistency?
Yeah, so on system consistency, we'll take a look at the 64X and 62X. Specifically, we do look at on-time performance, and sometimes on-time performance, can be seasonal, right? When CMS starts, usually for that week, comes back from the summer, comes off a summer break that week, we all of a sudden have hiccups with on-time performance because traffic patterns change, right? And routes take longer. But we can take a specific look. What I would say is our missed trips are going down. They're cycling down. Last month, they were at about a 2% range. And that was down from the month before of about 4%. And that's down from a year ago of about 9 to 10%. So, so the missed trips are doing better. That is because we're hiring more operators. TMOC is hiring more operators, and we're having better retention. On-time performance we can look at again a lot of times. So there's a couple things about on-time performance that we really need to take a look at. One is, if you only have 1 or 2 buses on a route in the morning, and if one is 20 minutes late, it kind of smashes the whole morning for those routes, especially those expresses. So as we're able to add back frequency, I think that starts to help, but we're just not there yet. We've stabilized with our operators, and we're seeing good trends, but we're just not back to where we were. But we'll look specifically at the route, at the 64 and 62. On the safety security side, we have just completed the transition from the previous contractor, Allied Universal, the safety security contractor. Allied Universal has been our security contractor for about 5 years, I believe, but their contract is completed. We hired 2 additional companies, and they have now both assumed responsibilities for security for their part of the security contract. And we are seeing some good results with the new contractors in that they are now able to they're starting to bring additional personnel, because I will remind you, the new contract, not only did we change contractors, we increased the spending, the contract value by 50% in the current fiscal year, and we are committed to increasing the contract values by another 50% in the next fiscal year, or sooner if we can. Chad's been crunching the numbers, and so our goal with these 2 new contractors is to double the spend, which basically equates to doubling the security personnel who are available. And we're starting to see the early stages of those 2 contractors coming on, and we are starting to see some good trends. I will also say riders will start to see much more fare inspection on rail. A lot of people don't know this, but the fare inspectors on the rail, those are the security contractors. The security contractors provide those personnel. So as we were transitioning over, we have heard, I ride the Blue Line and nobody ever asked if I paid. It must be free. The Blue Line is not free, but as we've been transitioning security contracts, those fare inspections became less and less frequent with the previous contractor. So we will start to see that increase. We'll also start to see presence on buses. Our bus patrol, that security presence will increase, and we're rolling out a couple more programs just to generally help with managing customers and customer experience, but it also goes to safety as well. Things like the Bus Ambassador program. We're expanding that program. We're expanding it on bus, and we're adding it to rail. We also have a program that one of our staff actually developed as part of a transit project called CATS Connect. And that is trying to address safety and security concerns related to folks who may have mental health issues or other underlying issues. I mean, I think what I would say is we're committed to having better security, more security throughout the system, but we are not going to solve, safety or every issue can't be solved with security enforcement. Some issues need different approaches, and that's what CATS Connect is aiming to do. So that was my really long way of trying to answer the question, to say we'll look at on-time performance specifically on these routes and in our express routes, because Mr. Walsh just said the 63X, which I actually, that's the express bus that I ride when I'm able to, has been having some issues lately, noticed. So we need to look at that. We will, and then we'll continue reporting on safety security measures as we go, but we would expect better results with the new contractor and the new programs.
Brent, can I say just a few things? Mr. Rhodes, Jason Lawrence, I lead our planning group, and we have recently added a new section to my team called customer experience. And so anytime you can send those directly to us, tell us the day it happened, tell us the bus number, tell as much information as you can, and we can find out what happened. 20 minutes late, if you're on a route that's only 15 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, it's getting close to be a missed trip. And so we need to know that when it happens, and dig into issues as far as, operators asking for directions. That's something that we can talk to with our bus operations group. So we got a team that's forming, and you'll hear more about that in the coming budget cycle about customer experience. It's going to be a renewed focus for us in that space. So anytime, feel free to send those issues to the planning team directly, and we can investigate.
Yeah, and we'll look into the paper maps. I'm not familiar with that. I will reach out to the general manager of TMOC to understand what their protocols are for maps. It seems counterintuitive for paper maps, but I just need to understand that better, and I can follow up.
It does. And I thank you for the responses. And Jason, I'll pass that information along to other riders as well.
Thank you, Donald. And I would have to say this whole interchange regarding the issue that Donald brought up is a great point to say why I believe, and others do as well, that TSAC and CTAG should be far more aligned, if not one group in total, because we could certainly bring a lot more evidence and information as to rider experience and how it connects with what we're doing from a budget perspective and future projects as well. So another point of emphasis toward that. Any other items? Yes, Mr. Wheeler.
Yes. Good morning, Edward. Good morning, everyone. I would like to give you kudos on your idea of suggestions of realigning CTAG and TSAC and of course, merging those if that's the way to go. I think we need to have an enabled and vital group that continues to meet very frequently. And our CTAG group hasn't met very much this year. And that leads to, I think, to a certain dullness of the activities and things that are going on. So I would fully support what you proposed there and look forward to seeing what happens in that area, and enjoyed serving with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Wheeler. And to that point, certainly with CTAG, when we consistently take a hiatus once our work is done in the spring with the approval of the budget to move forward to or recommendation of the budget moving forward to MTC, and then coming back in the fall. And if things are a little delayed as far as getting the preliminary budget started, certainly there's not really anything for us to address. So yes, it can create a very stagnant group. So there's several reasons why change may be in order. So hopefully Jeffrey and others on the TSAC side can push this across the finish line and get some adjustments there. So, but certainly that's not the only possible idea. And I'm sure there'll be some other great nuggets coming out in the coming months as well. With that being said, are there any other comments, questions from staff or CTAG? All right, hearing none, we have completed our agenda, and I would assume that someone's going to provide a motion.
Mr. Tillman, I think
yes.
Jonathan Wells has his hand up. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I did not see it. Thank you so much, Emily. I missed that. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Just wanted to know if the next meeting date and time and place has been established yet.
So for the next meeting, and this is, I guess, an opportunity to speak toward that, Jonathan, since you are one of our newest members. Back during our COVID time, we went completely remote with our meetings. And even after we came out of that time, CTAG went to only 2 in-person meetings per year as a requirement, and all others would be remote. The first meeting of the year being in September would be in person, and the final meeting in which we're actually approving or making the recommendation to move the budget forward to the MTC, it would also be in person. So the next meetings up until the approval or the recommendation for the budget are all going to be virtual, and they'll still be on the same schedule that we have for Tuesday mornings, I believe the 3rd Tuesday of each month. unless we are rolling up on a holiday timeframe. And as Mr. Howell mentioned, certainly next month, there'll be some conversation with CTAG as to whether you're going to maintain that meeting in December or not, since it comes close to the holiday and travel schedules for everyone.
And to be politically correct, Mr. Chair, the next meeting will be November the 21st for this body.
November 21st. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Paulus. All right. With that, yes, Jeffrey, I don't think your mic works, so you just don't really want to say anything to me out loud, but that's okay. It's all about those Baltimore Orioles and those Braves getting put out early. Whole nother conversation there. Do we have a motion to adjourn from anyone at this time?
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we
I
have
second
a
the motion.
second? I love it already. Thank you so much. We're ready to get me out of here. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any oppositions? I pray none. Excellent. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day and continue the great work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Good day.